An apartment fire displacing 3 families in Springdale. I'm Tanisha Shaw, and I talked to the business next door that saw the crews respond to the scene.
Plus, we'll tell you what Wisconsin lawmakers are doing to get the budget bill passed as the deadline looms. You're watching News 3 Now at 5. Thanks for staying with us at 5, everybody. A hot and humid weekend is ahead for us here in southern Wisconsin.
Meteorologist Blaze Keller on the weather patio. I think we just heard him running to the weather patio a bit ago. He has our incoming high temps. Blaze?
Yes, we are back into the upper 80s to low 90s on Saturday and Sunday after a very pleasant, not as humid, certainly not as hot, end to the work week. Southerly winds sticking with us throughout the weekend, but they turn out the southwest on Sunday, and that's going to bump up our temperatures just a little bit more to end the weekend. Both days mostly to partly sunny, and we could be dealing with some fog on Saturday morning, but Sunday evening and overnight we could be dealing with some severe weather. A marginal in the green to a slight risk in the yellow for severe weather, so an isolated chance for a severe thunderstorm or 2 in the green, whereas we could see a scatter chance for severe thunderstorms there in the yellow. Right now it's looking like mainly a strong wind and hail along with heavy rain threat. In the meantime, temperatures on this Friday afternoon, 70s, still holding on to the low to mid 80s along the Lake Michigan shoreline from Milwaukee south into Kenosha. It's 75 in Mineral Point, 77 Platteville north into Boscobel, 72 in Viroqua, and 79 for folks in Janesville. A very seasonable end to Friday, headed into the upper 50s to low 60s this evening, mostly clear, and as I said, fog could develop come Saturday morning. We'll track out in more detail the storm threat on Sunday and talk about what lies ahead in the days leading up to your 4th of July in the full forecast.
All right, Blaze, thank you. The man who sexually assaulted a woman on the Oregon bike trail 2 years ago will spend the next 17 years in prison. A judge sentenced Richard Cunningham Jr. today. Cunningham pleaded guilty in March to second-degree sexual assault in exchange for other charges being dropped. Those included strangulation and felony bail jumping. The Marquette County Sheriff's Office is investigating after a deadly crash in Packwaukee happened about 6 this morning. Deputies responded to a report of a car versus person accident. That individual died at the scene. The sheriff says the driver of the vehicle is cooperating with the ongoing investigation. Out of respect for the family, the sheriff's office is not yet releasing the victim's name.
Today, the suspect in the murder of a Minnesota state lawmaker and her husband appeared in federal court. Vance Belter faces at least 6 charges in connection with the shooting deaths of former Minnesota House Speaker Melissa Hortman, her husband, and their dog. A judge postponed his preliminary hearing until next week after the suspect told the court he has not slept in nearly 2 weeks. The court appearance coincides with the Hortmans and their dog lying in state at the Minnesota Capitol Rotunda.
Well, it's an honor to be here. Melissa was just such a giving, selfless servant for everybody. And I'm especially touched by the loss of Gilbert. To me, that underscores how senseless this was.
Belter is also accused of shooting another lawmaker and his wife 17 times. They survived and are recovering. Prosecutors allege Belter had a hit list of at least 45 elected officials, all Democrats.
Right now, families are putting their lives back together after a massive fire that happened last night in Springdale.
The flames damaged the entire building. Our Tanisha Shaw talked with a firefighter who was at the scene.
So that might be one thing that impacts business today is the smoke.
John Corey is a manager at Mount Vernon Tap in the town of Springdale. He was just steps away when flames interrupted his Thursday evening, sweeping through a nearby apartment building.
I was outside watching, and then some of my employees went in and knocked on the doors and got everybody out.
Some of the people that got out of the building are Corey's former employees. This fire left 3 families displaced, and he mentioned that one of the families recently had a baby.
I was really shocked and hoping that it wouldn't turn the way that it did with complete loss of the building.
More than 12 hours later, smoke is still coming from the building. I spoke to Dane County Sheriff's Department, who said this building is a total loss with damages worth more than $352,000.
Upon initial arrival, crews observed heavy fire and smoke conditions coming from the second story of the building.
Mount Horeb firefighter Jackson Bush arrived at the scene, and as a rookie firefighter, this fire was one of his toughest scenes.
It was one of the bigger fires, and the fire was able to move pretty quickly throughout the building. with it being that old and that type of construction.
Watching crews at the scene Thursday night and again on Friday morning reaffirms Corey's respect for our first responders.
I'm very thankful for all the first responders that came out. They were spraying my building down while the flames were coming out of the top, and I was really worried that something might carry over, but because I think they did an excellent job, we were okay.
Feels nice that people appreciate what we do.
Reporting in Mount Vernon, Tanasia Shaw, News 3 Now.
Tanasia, thank you. Crews were called back to the scene today, hours after their initial call. The Dane County Sheriff's Office says the cause of the fire is not suspicious.
Nike predicts President Trump's tariffs are going to cost the company $1 billion. Nike's CFO says the company will reduce its supply chain reliance on China to ease the financial impact, but it also means customers will pay higher prices. Nike is cutting imports on footwear from China to the U.S. by roughly 6% by the end of the year. The supply will instead come from other countries. And there's growing concern about the expanding influence of today's tech tycoons. When billionaires were given a front row seat at President Trump's inauguration and the world's richest man gained unprecedented power over federal agencies, questions about the rising influence of America's richest men started taking center stage. A new CBS Reports documentary explores whether America is entering a new gilded age or if this is just the latest chapter in the nation's struggle to balance wealth, power, and democracy.
What we are seeing now is an uber capitalism in which just a handful of people are exercising far, far, far too much power.
I don't think that we're in another gilded age. I'm more concerned about the economy slowing down.
Well, the phrase Gilded Age was coined by author Mark Twain to describe a period in the late 1800s when there was rapid economic growth coupled with government corruption. It premieres Saturday at 4 p.m. Central on CBS News 24/7 and Paramount Plus.
President Trump is shifting his focus from Iran to the spending bill that he wants on his desk by the 4th of July. The massive bill would extend the 2017 Trump tax cuts, get rid of taxes on tips and overtime, and increase defense spending. But the Senate parliamentarian has taken issue with the Medicaid changes. Her objections could require parts of the bill to be removed or rewritten, which will take time.
We'll get through it this weekend and be on the floor voting on the bill.
If it takes a few more days, a few more weeks, that's not a problem.
I anticipate that they'll be bringing this downright dangerous bill to the Senate floor sometime in the coming days.
With a 53-seat majority, Senate GOP leaders can only afford to lose just 3 Republicans on the bill, since all Democrats are expected to oppose it.
And Wisconsin lawmakers are pushing right up to the deadline to pass the state budget.
But after hours of closed-door debate, lawmakers are still nowhere to be found. Political reporter Will Keneally is at the state capitol with more on what's going on. Will?
Well, Eric and Susan, if you had asked me maybe an hour ago, I would have said we would have been inside that hearing room behind me here, listening to lawmakers debate the final details of the state budget. But as you can see, this committee room is empty. That's because lawmakers keep pushing back and back this hearing as they debate behind closed doors some of those final details. Now, I would equate this essentially to, back in school, it's a Sunday night. You're trying to wrap up all your homework before that Monday deadline. That's where lawmakers are right now, trying to cram a lot of work in today to finish their budget on this June 30th deadline. We're expecting to hear things like childcare debated, UW system funding, Medicaid and rural health care as well. All that being done very quickly here ahead of that June 30th deadline. And some of those major key sticking points. We know that there's a very slim Republican majority in the state Senate. And if even a couple of Republican state senators defect, essentially don't vote in one block, that could tank the budget. Again, trying to get this all done by Monday. Latest that we've heard just over the loudspeaker here within the last couple of minutes, they are expecting to tentatively be back here by 6 o'clock. But again, they've been saying that since 10 o'clock this morning, that 8 hours worth of debate so far. And we'll, expect maybe something later tonight, but maybe not. And we'll, of course, continue to keep you updated. But for now, reporting from the state capitol, Will Keneally, News 3 Now.
Could be a long night at the state capitol. Will, thank you. The U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Wisconsin is retiring. retiring. U.S. Attorney Timothy O'Shea will step down after 34 years with the Department of Justice. He began serving as a U.S. Attorney in April of 2022. Assistant U.S. Attorney Chadwick Elgersman will serve as acting U.S. Attorney until a candidate is nominated by President Trump and confirmed by the U.S. Senate.
We have the first set of recommendations from the new CDC advisory panel. The committee, handpicked by Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., endorsed this fall's flu vaccines, but only if they're free of thimerosal, an ingredient that anti-vax groups have falsely linked to autism.
Removing a known neurotoxin from being injected into our most vulnerable population is a good place to start with making America healthy again.
I'm not quite sure how to respond to this presentation. This is an old issue that has been addressed in the past.
Well, earlier this week, the panel backed a new option to protect infants from RSV, and the panel may look at the schedule for the measles, mumps, and rubella inoculation.
Well, after the break at 5, more Americans are reining in their spending.
And the U.S. Supreme Court limits the ability of federal judges to block presidential orders. What this could mean for birthright citizenship, and record high closes across the board to end the week on Wall Street. The Dow jumps more than 432 points. The Nasdaq gains 105.5. S&P 500 adds 32, and we'll be right back.
You're watching News 3 Now at 5.
Welcome back. The U.S. Supreme Court sidestepped the issue of whether the Trump administration can end birthright citizenship.
But it did say that federal judges who issue nationwide injunctions blocking presidential orders are overstepping their authority. Erica Brown has the details from Washington.
Well, this was a big one, wasn't it?
President Trump praised the Supreme Court ruling that limits the ability of federal judges to issue nationwide injunctions blocking presidential orders.
This is really also a decision based on common sense.
The High Court sided with the Trump administration in a 6-3 decision, split along ideological lines. Justice Amy Coney Barrett, writing the majority opinion, said, quote, universal injunctions likely exceeded the equitable authority that Congress has given to federal courts.
It was a grave threat to democracy, frankly, and instead of merely ruling on the immediate cases before them, these judges have attempted to dictate the law for the entire nation.
Writing the dissenting opinion, Justice Sonia Sotomayor said no right is safe in the new legal regime the court creates. Many of President Trump's executive orders have been halted with these nationwide injunctions issued by federal judges. But now the president says his administration will move forward implementing those orders,
including birthright citizenship, ending sanctuary city funding, suspending refugee resettlement, freezing unnecessary funding, stopping federal taxpayers from paying for transgender surgeries, and numerous other priorities of the American people. We have so many of them.
The Supreme Court's ruling did not address the constitutionality of the president's move to limit birthright citizenship. The Attorney General said she expects that issue to reach the justices this fall. Erica Brown, CBS News, the White House.
Immediately following the Supreme Court's decision, several groups filed class action lawsuits in an attempt to block the birthright citizenship executive order from taking effect.
Well, the U.S. Supreme Court says parents in Maryland can pull their children from public school lessons using LGBTQ books if they object on religious grounds. At a 6-3 decision, the justices reversed a lower court ruling in favor of the Montgomery County school system that's just outside Washington. The district added the storybooks to its curriculum in an effort to promote diversity. Some legal analysts say they're not surprised by the decision based on previous rulings from the conservative-leaning High Court.
Fascinating part of this will be looking to see exactly how the court creates the standard for determining when parents are entitled to notice and an opt-out.
Now, parents initially were allowed to opt their kids out of those lessons, but the school board changed course A year later, an attorney for the district argued the opt-outs had become disruptive.
Consumer spending fell 0.1% in May, according to the Commerce Department. That is the first decline reported since the start of the year. One main factor, a nearly 50% drop in car sales. Economists say that's due largely to people buying cars before the Trump administration's tariffs went into effect. Consumer spending fuels nearly 70% of the U.S. economy.
President Trump says that he will no longer negotiate trade with Canada and will soon announce new tariffs. The president says it's because of Canada's new digital tax service, which targets large online companies like Amazon, Apple, and Google. Canada exports billions of dollars in goods to the U.S. The higher tariffs could spark retaliation and raise costs for both countries. Canadian officials have not yet responded.
Well, the weekend is almost here, and it's going to be a hot and humid one.
Plus, a chance for some severe weather. Meteorologist Blaze Keller here with the full story.
That's right. We're looking at another hot and humid weekend for central and southern Wisconsin, back into those upper 80s to low 90s. And with all that additional humidity and a little bit of atmospheric energy, we could squeeze out a few severe thunderstorms as we look to end Sunday going into early Monday. There again is our marginal risk or an isolated chance for severe thunderstorms. So that includes Dane County, Iowa County, Crawford County, Lafayette, Greene, Rock, Walworth. You're getting the picture. And then once we get further north into the Dells, so parts of Sauk County, Richland County, Juneau, and Adams, we're into that slight risk for severe weather. So a more scattered chance for severe thunderstorms. Right now, it looks like because temperatures are going to be in those low 90s on Sunday, we'll likely hold off on any thunderstorm development until we start to cool on down. So going into the evening, overnight, further into the early morning hours on Monday. Here's Future Track bringing in those showers and maybe a few severe thunderstorms. Sunday right around 9, probably starting between 9 and 10, continuing overnight, and then dissipating or ending as we go into those early morning hours on Monday. That's also going to be along the cold front. So this is likely going to be more of a strong wind and hail threat coupled with those heavy rains that we really don't need any more of, especially across places that it's estimated the heaviest rain is going to fall. That's looking towards Sauk County, Vernon County, Monroe, Juneau County, where we could see isolated spots upwards of maybe 2 inches. Further south and eastwards, where we actually need the rain, it's looking like about a half an inch to an inch and a half of rain, likely going to fall Sunday into Monday, and then we'll see a couple more chances as we go into later parts of next week. We'll touch on that in just a moment, but take a look at how much rain it is estimated to have fallen over the last 5 days. I take a couple of samples here ranging from just a 1/4 of an inch of rain in parts of Walworth County to 3 inches of rain in parts of Dane County. We get north into Sauk County, we're approaching 4 inches of rain, and then there in Monroe County, La Crosse County, parts of Juneau County, picking up an estimated 8 inches to 9 inches of rainfall. And we're expecting even more rain in these same areas. So this is where we don't need any more rain. It's actually across this area, southeastern Wisconsin, where we're still holding on to some of those moderate drought conditions. That's where we need the rain. Folks in Walworth County have told us that they could use some of that rain, but unfortunately it looks like a lot of that is going to be off to our north and west. Speaking of the drought, because of those heavy rains, we have made some improvements. We've decreased the percentage of the state underneath abnormally dry down to now 24%, and the moderate drought is down from 5% to now about 3% of the state, still found here across the Wisconsin-Illinois border. So that's where we need the rain. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like that's going to be where we see the heaviest rain over the next couple of days. Other than that, chance Sunday into Monday, we could see some showers and thunderstorms midweek next week when we hang out in those low to mid 80s. And it does look like for now, it's trending to be a little bit drier, but still cloudy on the 4th of July. That rain chance likely going to hold off until the evening, overnight, and continue into the following Saturday. But it does look like other than this upcoming weekend, we should be pretty seasonal in those low to mid 80s.
All right, Blaze, thank you. Still to come at 5, June is Men's Health Awareness Month. We'll hear from doctors on what you can do to take care of your heart.
You're watching News 3 Now at 5.
Well, welcome back. We want to pass along some breaking news out of Madison. Various outbound lanes are closed just off John Nolan Drive at East Olin Avenue.
Yep, heads up if you're heading downtown tonight. The Madison Police Department says the closure is because of a multi-vehicle crash. It was first reported around 4:30 this afternoon. Police tell us traffic will be slowed for outbound John Nolan Drive during this investigation. June is Men's Health Awareness Month.
And Dominic Garcia looks into some heart issues that men should check up on next time they visit their doctor.
When it comes to heart health, there are some clear differences between men and women.
They tend to take less care of their high blood pressure, and they tend to have uncontrolled hypertension compared to their women counterpart. And that exposes them to the risk factors.
That's Dr. Jignesh Patel, a cardiologist with Kaiser Permanente, Northern California. He says men are also more likely to be exposed to smoking and tend to have higher cholesterol levels than women. All of these factors mean men experience heart attacks at a younger age. The average for men is 65, and for women, it's 72.
Overall, there are multiple factors which can play a role in why men experience these heart attacks more frequently than females.
So men, here are some things you can do today. First, make an appointment to talk to your doctor and do a preventative screening. Second, get moving, work out.
At least 30 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic exercise, at least 5 days a week, if not all 7 days. The best gift as a man that you can give to your family and your loved ones is to be present for them. And that starts from taking care of yourself and your health.
Sure, it takes some time, but it can also add more to your life. Dominic Garcia, CBS News, Sacramento.
And Blaze is back with a final check of the forecast after a short break.
Well, coming up tonight on News 3 Now at 6, one of the women a Madison couple allegedly tried to kill with poison comes forward on her recovery. That story and more. Join us at the top of the hour. News 3 Now at 6. Let's go to Blaze, who's going to map out the weekend for us.
It's going to be a hot and humid one after we settle into the 60s tonight. Mostly clear. Northwesterly winds remain light. Some fog develops by the morning hours on Saturday as we climb into those upper 80s to low 90s both Saturday and Sunday. Could see some showers and thunderstorms by the evening hours on Sunday, and some of those could be severe. We'll keep an eye out and, of course, keep you covered as we go throughout the weekend. Those wrap up early on Monday, leaving us with more sunshine and cooler temperatures to start off your 4th of July week. Speaking of 4th of July, looking like it's going to be cloudy and maybe going to be trending to be dry.
All right. Blaze, thank you. Thanks for joining us. Coming up next, the CBS Evening News. We're back in 30 minutes for News 3 Now at 6.
Have a good evening and a good weekend, everybody. See you back here tonight at 10.